What is up, YouTube? This is Alex Wink Ink Michael, and here's what I got for you today. We're going to talk about the crazy video games industry over the last 4 weeks, roughly. Just wanted to touch on a few points, a few things that I've seen, I've noticed, that maybe you have seen in the news. It is nuts. So multiple companies have come out with their earnings statements and their quarterly financials and everything like that. We touched on GameStop about a week ago, kind of what's going on with them, what they've done, or what they failed to do, rather. And now we have, wow, I don't even know where to begin. There has been so many stories and so many ups and downs in like the last 2 weeks, really, that have just been insane. I mean, you start with like Take-Two, for instance. And I'll reference these articles as we go along, but quick summarization is Take-Two has, they came out and announced theirs. They dropped in shareholder price. We've had Blizzard-Activision is in the news, and we'll get into that article in a minute. And then, of course, we know about GameStop, which has massively plummeted since they failed to sell their company or find a buyer. And then we also had EA, which is just a ridiculous roller coaster. What I wanted to talk about is what's driving this stuff. What is causing these companies and the industry as a whole to be so volatile lately? And that's something we're going to talk about today. We're going to kind of dive into that a little bit. Not going to be too long, but I just found it really interesting. What a week in video games. Let's start with Blizzard-Activision. This is the most recent news that's come out as of a couple days ago, and I'm sure you've seen it, but let's jump over to our article here on Kotaku, and it is on everything. I mean, I have seen this on PC Gamer. I mean, it is everywhere. So basically, Activision Blizzard employees brace for massive layoffs. This is by Jason Schreier. And it just basically is saying, look, staff at the game publisher Activision Blizzard, they're preparing for major layoffs next week. They're waiting to see who will be one of the potentially hundreds of employees being laid off. And it's going to happen Tuesday, apparently. So that is terrible news. I hate it for people and their families. And the games industry is so difficult because it takes a lot of education to get in the industry and a lot of relationships and really building your portfolio and resume to land a good gig like this, and then just for it to be, to be laid off or to be let go, it's really tough, especially when you probably, I would assume in that industry, if you make it to like Blizzard-Activision, you're like, oh my gosh, I made it. And then, you get hit with something like this. So this is really rough to read. And they're basically saying that they're doing this to better position themselves to be more profitable. And whenever companies do that, it's just not good. I guess the story originated from Bloomberg, and they tend to break a lot of things like this. I mean, anything, unfortunately, bad news when it comes to major companies that's going to affect share prices, Bloomberg tends to break it pretty quickly. It's been a rough year for Activision Blizzard as a whole. They've struggled quite a bit in with their with the Destiny, the Bungie spinoff, and Destiny going away, things like that. I mean, you just kind of talk about some of the major talent they've lost. The Mike Morhaime stepped down. He was replaced by J. Allen Brack, but he wasn't the CEO. He was just the president. And then they killed Heroes of the Storm, which I don't know. I mean, was it as competitive as like League of Legends and Dota? Probably not, but they had the resources they could have thrown behind it and really kind of pushed it through or forced it through. So that was an interesting decision to kill Heroes of the Storm, especially without having another IP to replace it or another major title to replace it. That was an interesting decision to just say, hey, look, we're kind of done with it. They could have really held off on announcing that. And knowing, interestingly enough, they announced it knowing full well that it would affect their value. So I found that one to be an odd one for sure. But and then on the Activision side, Black Ops 4 was pretty successful, but it's really dropped tremendously in gameplay and everything like that. I mean, it was touted as the Fortnite killer, and then it just really kind of dropped like a rock. As far as Blizzard-Activision goes, we'll see what these layoffs do. I think it's going to be interesting to kind of find, what they. I guess it's going to be interesting to find what they really contribute to their bottom line and how it helps them restructure the company to put out the titles that everybody wants. Just thinking of this, I mean, they announced the Diablo game and it's mobile. Now, I don't have as much of a problem with that because to me, Diablo makes for a great mobile game. I think that it's going to be immensely profitable. It's going to allow them to draw a ton of money, and the mobile market is just unbelievable with the money that it brings in a very small amount of resources and commitment on the company side to get it. So I think that's a big one. Another big thing with this whole ordeal, though, is the microtransactions, which we can touch on in a little bit, and how they've affected the landscape of gaming. Fortnite really threw a wrench in a lot of companies. And we'll just move right along here, and we'll go to Take-Two now. And we'll just take a look at Take-Two. And this one isn't as bad, but, you know, they came out just like everybody else, had to announce the results and the outlook of the company. They had a 13% drop. This is courtesy of MarketWatch. I've talked about MarketWatch in my last video. It's a pretty great website for anything investment related with any type of companies, tech companies. They do a great job of covering. I like MarketWatch a lot, but, you know, 13% dip. You know, Take-Two didn't have it nearly as bad. They just didn't really do anything last year that really took off. That probably contributed to a lot of their dip. Now, they will recover. I got to tell you, they tend to do this a lot after the holidays. They take a drop. Historically, they've taken a drop, and then they kind of come back. And it's always been within a 3 to 4 month window. I'm not as worried about this one. I think that they're going to bounce back. They have some titles coming. They're going to come back around, and Take-Two's really not going to be shooken up quite as much. And then we'll go to the next one, and this one is the most interesting to me, and we're going to talk about EA. I'm not going to link the first article where EA took like a 20 to 22% dip, the biggest loss since 1980 after announcing their earnings and outlook. And then they drop Apex Legends out of nowhere, and they go up 16%. That is hilarious to me that EA is this volatile. Now, I know a lot of people don't like EA, but they are on to something here. And this Apex Legends game is taking off like fire. I mean, it is hitting on all the right cylinders. If you haven't played it, it's absolutely awesome. I would highly recommend that you jump into it. It's really good. And unfortunately, it's going to be microtransaction. It's going to have all the staple EA type things that you probably don't like. But unfortunately, that's the reality of gaming now. But if you look at this, I mean, this says it all. Their stock soared 16% Friday after announcing its new Fortnite competitor gained 10 million players in the first 72 hours. They've got something here. A lot of games have been labeled as the Fortnite killer over the last year, but they really have the closest one, I think. I think this is going to be the one that really gives Fortnite a run for its money because EA is not afraid to invest in their games. Now, they've closed a lot of studios. Don't get me wrong. They've killed a lot of franchises. But when they have something like this, they're a heavyweight. They're a heavyweight, and they're going to play ball. So it's going to be interesting to see how much support and resources they shift to this game after hearing this news. And hopefully, it doesn't ruin it. But with that being said, that's kind of been EA's last 2 weeks. So the game industry as a whole is just a complete mess right now. I mean, this thing is all over the place, and there's really not any way to predict what's going to happen next. I would tell you, for me personally, I wouldn't buy EA stock because it's too high. I wouldn't necessarily buy Take-Two unless it dropped like 20 to 25 points. That would make it a little bit more attractive. I would stay far away from Blizzard-Activision stock. I just don't think they have anything real big coming out, AAA-esque, I should say, that's going to make an impact. So I would stay away from Blizzard-Activision unless, like I said, if they dip 25, 30 points, then you've got to probably put your money in if that's your thing. The games industry is nuts right now. We're going to see a lot of different things happen. It's going to be a wild year. 2019 is going to be a wild year of ups and downs between the Steam and the Epic Store, and we're going to have a whole lot of online stores to choose from, and everybody's going to be pushing their platforms, and we're going to see a lot of different types of games. We're going to see microtransactions. That's going to come to a head. They're either going to be left alone and in place, and we're going to have to be taught as a consumer to deal with them, or we're going to revolt, and it's going to get crazy pushback, and we're going to kill games that we don't want to play that are full of them. And I'm interested to see what the gaming community as a whole does with a lot of these things. But that's it for today's video. I really, really appreciate everybody coming in. I got to tell you, this YouTube journey has been awesome so far. This is my 5th video, and I'm loving it. I really enjoy doing it. So please like and comment. Tell me what you think in the comments below. What do you think? Do you think 2019 is going to be a huge year for gaming? Do you think one company is going to outperform another? Let me know in the comments below what you think, and please smash that like button. Please hit the subscribe button. I'm a growing channel. You can see my counter over here. I got 1 subscriber, which I am very happy about, but I'd like to have a few more. So I appreciate everybody coming, checking out the video, and I'll see you on the next one.